your living room. My name is Ashley, one of the educators here at the Living Coast Discovery Center. Now, every day, Monday to Friday, during this time at 11 a.m., we are sharing all kinds of different educational videos with you so you can get a chance to learn about nature from the comfort of your own living rooms. Now, today we are doing something very special, is we're going to get a chance to learn about seahorses and hopefully get a chance to see how they feed while being able to create our very own seahorse craft. Now, here at the Living Coast, we have Pacific seahorses, and these seahorses are also known as giant Pacific seahorses, as they are one of the largest species of seahorses out there. There are 35 different species of seahorses, and most of them are pretty small, with these seahorses being about 12 inches, which is about a foot. Most of these ones in here are not a full 12 inches, but they are pretty large, so you can get a chance to see how big that really is. Now, of those 35, most of them are going to live in those cooler water temperatures, so that way they are adapted to, they live in those warmer water temperatures, so they're adapted to that warm life. But ours, off of our coastlines, are adapted to our cooler water temperatures in our eelgrass beds. So let's get a chance to check those out. So what we are going to get a chance to see is our seahorses getting fed here. What do you think these are? Now, this is actually a type of plankton called a mysid, and plankton is exactly what seahorses eat. So you can see they have that elongated snout, and that's what they use to pull food into their mouths. Now, seahorses do have that long prehensile tail, and that's actually what they use to hold on to things. They use this tail to hold on to things like eelgrass or corals and to anchor themselves down, and they'll actually be considered an ambush predator. So they will hold on and wait for the food to come to them, and then they will suck it up using their snout. Now, this prehensile tail is a little bit different than what most animals have that live in the ocean, but it is very unique for seahorses to allow them to be able to survive the best as possible. Now, when you're looking closely at them, what kind of animal do you think a seahorse is? Is a seahorse a fish? An invertebrate? What do you think? Well, seahorses have actually been classified as different animals at different times, as scientists weren't really sure, because they look very unique all on their own. Seahorses are actually classified as fish. Now you might be wondering, how are they a fish? They don't look anything like a fish I've ever seen. That's because there are two characteristics that put all those fish together, and one of them is actually going to be that they have a backbone. So now as we check out this seahorse right here, he's stretching his whole body out. Do you see how rigid the back section is? That's because that is where the spine is. So fish are vertebrates. They do have backbones, and this seahorse has that as well. Now, our other classification that put all those fish together was actually going to be that they live in an aquatic environment. And seahorses live in the ocean. Most seahorses are found in those tropical regions with the warmer waters, but ours are actually adapted to our cooler waters here, which makes them very unique to be able to have off of our coastlines. Now, if you look closely by their heads, you might notice you can see something opening and closing. That's actually by where their gills are as well. So seahorses do have gills, which is a common characteristic across all fish. Not every fish has it, but a lot of them do. Now you can see that one seahorse is grabbing onto the other seahorse's snout. They do some silly things with those tails because they're just going to anchor themselves into whatever is going to be able to hold them in place. They don't really care what it is. If they can hold on to it, they will. Now, as we were saying, they do have gills, so they are going to be breathing oxygen through the water. But if you look very closely, do you see their fins on them? Seahorses do have fins. They're just very, very small. Now, do you think a seahorse is able to swim very far and very fast across the ocean? No, they can't. They are adapted for staying in those coastal shallow areas, and this allows them to be able to be those ambush predators. So since they're not fast swimming animals, they will use that tail to hold on to things like you can see them all doing right now, holding on to each other. And they stay in that one place and they wait for plankton to come by so that they can pull it through that elongated snout. Now, things that they'll hold on to include eelgrass, like we see in our exhibit here, corals, and any other objects. This behavior is called anchoring. And this is what keeps them in those coastal shallow waters so that they can have an abundance of plankton. As plankton is generally only going to be found in those coastal areas and those shallower regions, that's where they're going to find the most amount of food sources as possible. Now, unfortunately, Pacific seahorses are listed as vulnerable, which means they're not doing so great out there in their environment. There are a lot of issues that seahorses have to face, and the biggest issue that they are facing is actually the loss of their habitat. Habitats along those coastal shorelines are being destroyed or degraded for a variety of different reasons. And this is actually ultimately causing an effect on our seahorse friends. Now, if you are someone who likes to go swimming or snorkeling or diving, there are some things that you can do to help save seahorses and make sure that you are doing your part to protect them as much as possible. Now, whenever you go out in the waterways, you do want to make sure you are doing your part to make sure that you are not taking anything from the environment and you are allowing your body to stay away from any of those objects that might be in there. So you are avoiding any of the rocks or those corals and you're leaving the shells and things behind. Accidental fin kicks can be very destructive to habitat spaces, so we want to make sure we can do our best to help protect them. Now, we also are going to get a chance to make our very own craft of our seahorses here today. So I hope you have your materials ready. You really don't need much. You need 2 different pieces of paper, some markers, and some scissors, and some decorative materials if you choose to do that. So what you're going to do first is you're going to use 1 piece of paper to draw out your best seahorse design that you can draw out. It's okay if it's not perfect because you can cover it up with designs later. So I made a little mistake up here on mine, but that's okay. So you're going to draw your seahorse first. Then you're going to want to cut it out. So I'm just going to quickly cut mine out, roughly, so you guys can get a chance to see what my overall seahorse will look like once it's done. Now on this seahorse, after you cut it out, or even before, you can color it with all of the fun colors you would like to make your seahorse. Now our Pacific seahorse friends next to me are going to be browns and yellows and kind of more orange colors, but you can make yours whatever color you would like it to be. So you can cut out your seahorse like this, and then you see where I have this black line drawn? That's actually going to be where you're going to take your seahorse and fold it like this. And you're going to use the scissors to cut just right there on that black line. That's going to make a small little opening on your seahorse that you will use your second piece of paper for. Now you're going to need another piece of paper and you're going to need a small rectangle of it. Doesn't need to be very big, so I'm going to cut this paper down. I'm going to use about this much. I'm going to take this piece of paper and I'm actually going to accordion style fold it. So I'm going to fold one part backwards and then fold that part back again. So back and forth, so that it's going to eventually look like this. So then you can open it and it makes that accordion fold. So with this, you're going to take it, fold it back up, fold it in half so that it has that crease, And this is actually what you're going to put inside of that slit we made in our seahorse. Just like that. Then you can open the folds up. So that way your seahorse now has some beautiful little fins. Now you can use some markers and different things to decorate your seahorse and make it as beautiful as you would like. Cover up any mistakes you might have made and put any sequins or glitter, googly eyes, any fun creative things on your seahorse if you would like. Now I hope you've had a great time learning about seahorses here today on Living Coast in Your Living Room, and you'll join us next time as we talk about all kinds of different nature and wonderful wildlife within. We'll see you next time.